when you guys are considering things like conversations of treatment, like how effective have you found the treatments to be? And then what should maybe families expect if they're seeking services for good anxiety treatment and like when they should consider it?
Yeah, so to build on where we left off, there are signs where a kid or a teen needs help, and that can be again the mood symptoms, the sleep, the explosiveness,
Yeah.
the like I can't do any more of that stuff. So all right, there's some yellow flags or red flags at play. Um, I would say if there's anything parents are sort of having their spidey sense go off about, like it doesn't hurt to seek consultation. Start
Definitely.
coming into a CB team or a therapist's office like this you're not signing your life away of like, okay, 5 years no, it can be
Yeah.
a one-off consultation. um, and there is good self-help stuff and stuff online, but it's also not so good stuff out there, and it can be muddy and hard to digest. So to
Yeah.
have just the trusted professional have a conversation, that goes a long way, and that might lead to, let's just start with testing. Like let's do an assessment to really understand this kid better and see where they're at compared to their same age peers.
Yeah.
uh, so yeah, I'd say assessment, always a good idea. Also, like there are some core emotion regulation skills that I really hope we all have a fifth grade class one day where it's just all year long you learn these different types of skills. There's so many of them, and we all have emotions. Actually, my favorite thing when I give conference talks is you can have everyone do a quick emotion regulation self-assessment,
Yep.
and you're like, so how many of you scored in this range? And everyone's like, oh, like,
Yeah.
we all struggle to some degree, so, and it's because we didn't get taught everything we needed. So that would be my other thing. Assessment is always good, and everyone could benefit from some short-term skills education. Um,
Definitely.
that said, when it comes to the more problematic anxiety or the anxiety disorders, you typically want to expect 12 to 15 sessions as the first dose of treatment, if you will. That outcomes tend to, I think it's fair to say, three-fourths more or less are going to benefit.
Mhm.
That one-fourth, going back to how we started this conversation, that's where places like CB Team, we love to kind of then figure out, okay, well, what's getting in the way? So
Right.
I really do believe treatment works for everyone. And sometimes it's challenging, and you got to find the right way in to speak to someone's motivation. Sometimes, again, it's more of a family systems thing. We got to actually work with parents more than a kid. There's endless examples of that kind of one-fourth. But uh, so 12 to 15 weeks, 75% showing good outcomes. And then we have, I'm curious what you think, Teresa, but like we tend to have, maybe half, let's just say, that kind of do that route. And then, they're in a better place and they go back, kind of stop therapy services. Maybe we pass on our plan to the school counselor and it kind of moves forward until maybe 2 years down the line, puberty really sets in, or they go through their first breakup, or they fail their first test. Something contextual happens that brings back some of the old stuff, and they come back for booster sessions, and we kind of just do another dose.
Yeah.
Then there's those that really just benefit and love it so much that they kind of use therapy on and off throughout their whole development, right? And that's not because they're so much sicker, so to speak, than anyone else. It's just that some people really like having a personal trainer is a fair metaphor. Like, do you ever not benefit from having a personal trainer who's motivating you and helping you reflect on your goals? And so like we kind of fill that service for some kids who really like having a safe space, a trusted adult who's not their parent. Like, parents can't have a dual relationship. You can't be a parent and a therapist.
Right.
So having that trusted, safe place to just talk things out, right? Like, growing up is awkward and uncomfortable, and like there's plenty to process.
Yeah.
And I guess my last thing there is early intervention really matters. And I think that's why we love working with kids.
Yeah.
And I think
Absolutely.
it's largely, aside from these evidence-based treatments that we really focus on, it's largely relational. And, I think that really speaks to the work too, is if you have a kid that trusts you, like that's really the most important thing.
So
And,
powerful.
usually when I have parents that come in and their kid is starting therapy, depending on the presentation, depending on the age, right off the bat, I will say, like, just give us a couple weeks to get to know each other, right? Like we're not going to hit the ground running. We're just going to build a relationship, because if the foundation has cracks in it, we're not going to go anywhere. And so I think a big piece of that, you know, maybe, I don't know if it's a misconception that people have in the beginning of therapy, like, you know, we typically don't see these huge, you know, improvements right off the bat. And there's a reason for that. And it's, you know, it's worth kind of slowing down, easing into it, building a relationship, building that trust, especially with a kid.
Totally.
And to Adam's point, like it's really cool to have that relationship and be that kind of non-biased, trusted adult that is here to listen, you know, without judgment. This time is your time, and provide you with some skills that are going to hopefully make your life a little bit easier.
Yeah, I think that's what, in terms of what good therapy looks like, you should be hearing some concrete, tangible strategies.
Yeah.
And you also should see a really powerful relationship forming.
Yeah. And some validation of like the experiences that they're going through as they're also, you know, picking up these skills from you all.
Yeah, like we've all been to the GP and they're like, okay, do you have this? Okay, this. All right. Oh, well, here's this. See you next time.
Yeah.
Like, okay, helpful maybe depending on what you gave me, but
But almost like transactional and less like building, you know.
yeah, when we're talking about opening up, being vulnerable, like going to sort of the deepest, darkest places, you know, emotionally.
Which is where anxiety and OCD kind of can be too.
Yes, totally.
And like Adam was saying too, like it's not uncommon for, you know, us to see kids for 6 months, and then, you know, we kind of send them off, and a year and a half later we get an email, you know, they're in middle school now, and, you know, life is getting tough again. And it's cool to have them come back and, you know, oh, are you still hanging out with this friend, or how, you know, how's your sister doing? Like it's just it's a cool kind of like a long-term relationship that we get to build with some of these families. And again, it takes away a lot of that kind of build-up work when you meet someone new. You have to tell your whole background story again, and it's exhausting for these kids, right? And that's another thing I'll tell parents, like once we start really talking about this stuff, like you can usually tell with the kids, right? Like they're tired, like it's, you know, because we're bringing this stuff up to the surface and we're putting it on the table, and we're attacking it head on. And so that's not easy, right? Like, and these kids are, I mean, it's brave to come and talk about these things. It's hard. So again, that relational piece is really invaluable. Like
It's a privilege for us. We love it.
Yeah.
We love the opportunity.
Absolutely.